Hello, this is John Hesse, Cahokia Presbyterian Church. We're reading from Of Moose and Men by Tori Martin and Doug Peterson. I'm reading the chapter entitled A Hairy Situation. I was horrified. When I looked into the mirror, I spotted a few gray hairs poking out of my red beard. How could this possibly be? I was still a relatively young man when we moved from Alaska to Tennessee. I love Christmas, and I had the St. Nicholas physique, but it was way too early in my life to be making a transformation into a white-bearded Santa Claus. Even more horrifying, I realized that the very next day I was scheduled to give my first major speech. The publisher of my first book of comedy sketches was holding a conference in Nashville, and they had asked me to be one of the main speakers. So when I spotted those gray hairs, pride started working me over. I already had my weight working against me, so I didn't want my hair working against me as well. When people see a fat man with youthful-looking hair, they think, he's young, he still has time to lose weight. But a fat man with gray hair, people think, that's just sad. So on a whim, I decided to truck on down to the store and pick up some hair coloring to brush on my beard. At first, I wasn't able to find any men's hair coloring products other than brown, black, and sandy blonde. The men's products didn't include red, so I had to go to the women's section, where I tried to find the most masculine-looking woman on the box. All I spotted were beautiful women with not even a hint of a bleached mustache. But I did find red hair dye on sale, 2 boxes wrapped together and sold for the price of 1. I love deals, but the cheapness of the price should have served as a warning. I was too desperate to think that through. I may have been showing gray hair, but evidently the wisdom that comes with a gray head was still a long way off. When I returned home with my product, I didn't bother reading the directions on the box because ADHD does not allow for label reading. I applied the dye to my beard, mustache, and eyebrows, and then I sat and waited 25 minutes for the magic to happen before washing it all off. Then I looked into the mirror again. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the most foolish one of all? Me. I found myself staring back at an orange monster. The dye had turned my beard, mustache, and eyebrows bright orange. Actually, it was beyond bright orange. This was neon orange. And I'm not exaggerating for comic effect. It was literally neon. I grabbed the box of hair dye and red. The shade that I had selected was called Luscious Mango. I was now thoroughly confused. Was it my goal to become luscious or to resemble a mango? Is there even such a thing as a luscious mango? Has anyone ever eaten a mango and actually said, that mango was luscious? The name was ridiculous, and the color even more so. I contemplated what I was going to do next. I had to do something, because I couldn't make my speech looking like a very large traffic cone. That's when I received a call from my friend Ernie at the local video store. We've got the movie you wanted, Ready to Rumble, he said. Oh, Ready to Rumble was a new comedy with David Arquette, and I was anxious to see it because the subject was wrestling. When I was a kid, my greatest dream was to someday become a professional wrestler. You know, the kind of guy that climbs on the turnbuckle and throws his entire weight on top of his opponent. I still love the theatrics of wrestling. And I wondered for one wild moment if I could travel on the circuit as the wrestler known as Luscious Mango. Ready to Rumble was hard to get because in Tennessee, the most checked out videos either had to do with football, WWF wrestling, or NASCAR. If Jesus had been born in Cedarville, Tennessee, the 3 wise men would have brought tickets to football, wrestling, and racing events as their gifts. Are you listening? Ernie said, I can hold a movie for you, but only if you come right now. The manager's off to the bank. The manager of this video store never let his workers hold a movie for anyone, not even for 10 minutes. So this was a rare opportunity, but only if I came immediately. But what about my orange beard? How could I appear in public looking like a biohazard warning sign? I'll come right over, I told Ernie, but when I get there, I'll just honk my horn. Could you bring out the video? I'll pay you in cash from my truck. What? Why would you do that? Just do it. I'll explain when I get there. I hung up the phone and tried to figure how I was going to hide my neon beard. By this time, I had performed at quite a few places in the Dollywood area, including the Louise Mandrell Theater and a policeman's benefit at the governor's mansion. I had also popped up in the newspaper here and there, so I didn't want to ruin my image by appearing in public, sporting a neon orange beard. Therefore, I did what any self-respecting pseudo-celebrity might do. I rummaged through my Alaskan winter clothes and picked out a black ski mask that covered my entire face except for 2 eye holes. With the ski mask over my face, I kind of looked like the masked wrestler Nacho Libre. Ready to rumble, I hopped into my truck and proceeded to make the way to the video store. It was a hot summer day, about 4 in the afternoon, and my truck had no air conditioning. In Alaska, I drove a Jeep without a heating system. In Tennessee, I drove a truck without air conditioning. Go figure. To keep from getting heat stroke, I rolled down the window, but it was hot. I was beginning to sweat, and it trickled beneath my mask and into my eye holes. I tried to wipe away the sweat and keep my eyes on the road when I drove right past the Searville police station. The next thing I knew, I was being followed by a squad car. Apparently, seeing a person driving around wearing a ski mask on a hot summer afternoon makes policemen very suspicious. The officer followed me into the video store parking lot, where he immediately turned on his flashing lights. I was scared to death as he got out of the squad car and called to me from a distance. "Put your hands out of the window where I can see them." I quickly obeyed, leaning over to stick my hands out of the driver's side window. "Now open the door and step out of the car." Obediently, I drew my hands back in so I could open the car door. I said, "Put your hands out the window." Instantly, my hands were back out the window. "Now open the car door." Was he kidding me? I paused for a second, afraid to draw my hands back into the car. But I obeyed, this time drawing back only one hand so I could open the door. "Keeping your hands out the window." "I have to use my hand to open the door," I shouted. "Okay, but move slowly." Great. I thought, I've only lived in Searville for 3 months and I'm being arrested by Barney Fife. Nervously, I opened the door and stepped out of the car, my hands clearly visible. By this time, my buddy Ernie had emerged from the video store, holding a copy of Ready to Rumble, and he was shocked to see me standing next to a police car wearing a ski mask. The officer looked at me quizzically. "What seems to be the problem?" To which I calmly responded by slowly lifting my mask, gesturing to my beard and saying the only 2 words I could come up with: "Luscious mango." The officer looked confounded for a moment, and then he chuckled. "Hey, aren't you that comedian guy?" "Yes." "And I'm working on some new material." "What happened to your face?" "That's the material." After I explained the whole story, the policeman kindly let me off with a warning and a wisecrack. He seemed highly amused with himself because on the warning ticket he had written, "From now on, I suggest you read all labels before applying anything to your face." I don't find this funny at all, but when a policeman tells you a joke, you're obligated to laugh. You never know what they'll write a ticket for, so I gave him a strained laugh through gritted teeth. "Ha, that's funny." The policeman obviously remembered me from my performance at the policeman's benefit, so I asked, "Would you do me a favor and not tell any of the other officers about this incident?" "Oh, I won't tell them. Don't worry about that." I sighed in relief. "I'll just show them the video." He had recorded the entire incident with the video camera mounted on the dashboard of his car. Ernie was doubled over with laughter. I wish I could say my story ended there, and I learned my lesson, but alas, I cannot. When I got home, I insisted Rob go out and buy me something to remove this neon orange color, and pronto, since my speaking engagement loomed. So Rob came back with something called Oops, which strips hair of all color, turning it blonde. After removing the orange, I then had to add a more natural red color, so that's what I did. Now, if you've been counting, you may realize that by now I had made 3 chemical treatments to my beard, mustache, and eyebrows in a single day, and my skin was in open rebellion. The new color burned my face, leaving ugly scabs tangled up with my beard. I had no choice but to shave off my beard, though I couldn't run a razor over the tender spots. So I was left with patches of hair and scabs. I showed up at my first major speaking engagement looking like someone with a serious skin disease or a botched facelift. I'm not kidding. If I'd lived in Jesus' time, they would have banished me to a colony and forced me to carry a bell so I could clang it while shouting, "Unclean," whenever I entered the town. But I'd learned there were more important things to worry about than my appearance. And as soon as my beard grew back, I had the gray hairs to prove it. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Says Matthew 6, verse 34. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I also learned something that helped me in my comedy career and in my day-to-day life. I learned to share the real me, scabs and all. When I stepped in front of the audience that day, I told them the whole crazy tale, and they loved it. In fact, after my talk, all kinds of people wanted to have their picture taken next to Tori the leper. I wouldn't have minded, but my skin was so sensitive that it even hurt to smile. I learned that as a comedian, I should write from a point of emotional truth. I was honest about my flaws, and the audience connected with me because we've all been there and done that. Well, okay, most people haven't been stopped by police for driving through town with a ski mask on a hot summer day to conceal their neon orange hair, but you get the idea. When the Learning Channel found out about the story, they asked me to play myself in a dramatic recreation for their program, Share the Shame, which recounts life's most embarrassing moments. For the show, I dyed my beard neon orange once again, using the same product with the same results. The title, Share the Shame, sums it up. We shouldn't be ashamed of our shortcomings. When we spend so much time trying to conceal our flaws, we distance ourselves from other people. I'm not saying there's no room for privacy. It's just that many of us are willing to show only our strong qualities and never admit our failings, although our true self inevitably shows through despite our best efforts. Oftentimes we even lie to ourselves, afraid to admit our flaws. Paul writes in Colossians 3, verse 19, "Do not lie to one another, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge of the image of its creator." Letting God peel off your old self and put on the new self can be painful, and it might leave a few scabs. It can be a hair-raising experience, but resurrections have a way of raising a person's hair, not to mention their entire body. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the story. God bless you.